All right, good morning, guys. Mr. Harnack and I have to be at a training for our co-teaching at the high school, so I thought I would just kind of record my iPad and just kind of walk you through the lesson and just kind of pretend that I'm sitting back at my desk and that Mr. Harnack is walking around the classroom, even though we're not here. So we're just going to start in Schoology, our schedule for November 9th through the 13th. If you could click on that, open that up. It should pop in your drive then. Remember, this is the... Sorry, bell's ringing. And this is the document that has everything connected to it. So today is Wednesday. We are cohort A. I'm just kind of looking at... We read all summer in a day all together. We did some highlighting, all good stuff. So then second period together, we're going to look at parts of a sentence Google slideshow, and then I'm going to walk you through what I want you to do for practice. So go ahead and open up the parts of a sentence. If you click on the link in number 2, it'll be sentence equations that it'll actually bring up. It'll look something like this. And then if you could take out your notebook, I do want you to write down these 4 separate parts in your notebooks. All right, today's November 11th. So just kind of give you a second to get your notebooks out, or if you want to pause me. And then we're going to go through 4 parts of a sentence. It's going to be mostly a review because we have talked about subjects, verbs, and direct objects a little bit already in ELA. And now we're going to kind of look at making some complex and compound sentences within our own writing, because you identifying a verb or a subject is not going to help you in the future, right? Eventually, you're going to have to write some more complex sentences in high school, and if you do decide to go to college, and then you will have to write a resume one day as well, and if you're able to write professionally with a variety of different sentences, that'll kind of separate you from the rest of the individuals, and maybe just write some simple sentences. So in your journal, November 11th, you just want to call this sentence equations. So our first part of a sentence is going to be a main part. You don't have to color code these things. I just have them color coded for me because it'll kind of match what I have you do with the practice. So if you want to just write down in your notebooks, number 1, main parts. And then these parts contain the main action of the sentence. And if you notice underneath, I have a 1, 2, and a 3. So it's going to contain the subject, the verb, and a direct object. That is the main part of a sentence, a complete thought. Okay, so in our example here, Bob left the quiet country town. We have a subject of Bob. What is Bob doing for a verb? He's leaving. And then where is he leaving to? Our direct object, town. Okay, so subject would be Bob, verb is left, and direct object is town. All right, let's go ahead and jot down that main part. And if I'm ever going too fast for you, you can always pause me and click me again to play. Our second part is going to be a lead-in part. So these parts lead in, or kind of like help begin a main part. So it's almost like a little introduction to the main part of the sentence. All right. And then I have on the right-hand side, if you could jot that down in your notebook, this tells us either more about the subject, verb, or direct object. So we're actually going to keep our same main part of the sentence. So Bob left the quiet country town. We're going to keep that main part throughout the rest of this slideshow. And then our lead-in part that I'm going to have in red is going to be on a bitter cold winter morning, which tells me a little bit more about when Bob is leaving. Okay, so it's telling us more about the verb. So he's leaving on a cold, bitter winter morning. And then if you notice, a comma separates my lead-in part from my main part. And now because Bob is a proper noun, we have to capitalize the B in Bob. Otherwise, if this was any other word, it'd be lowercase. I'm going to go on to the next one. You can pause me if going too fast. Number 3 is an in-between part, or as I like to call them, an in-betweener. These parts fall in between other parts. All right, it's almost like a slight interruption. So we're still going to have, like Bob left the quiet country town. We still have our lead-in on a bitter cold winter morning. I have another comma though, and then my green part is my in-betweener. So on a bitter cold winter morning, a young man of simple means but good intentions, Bob, left the quiet country town. So once again, all these parts that interrupt or lead in tells us more about either the subject, verb, or direct object. Our lead in, the red part, tells us when he's leaving. And then the green part, the in-between part, tells us more about Bob. He is a young man of simple means but good intentions. And then finally, our add-on parts, or the parts that get kind of added on to the end of our sentences. They convey additional information about the other parts. So on a bitter cold winter morning is our lead-in. Then we have a little interruption, a young man of simple means but good intentions. And then finally we have our main part. Bob left the quiet country town to set off on a bold errand he'd been preparing for all his life. Okay, so telling us a little bit more about this sentence. And you notice how this sentence is a lot more descriptive. There's a lot more things going on in the sentence than this sentence here. So it's almost like, well, this is a sentence we might write in 5th grade. Here's a sentence we might write in 8th grade. Okay, so if you need to go back, you obviously have access to this sentence equations Google Slide in your drive. Make sure that you have your notes completed. I will let you use your notes when we do some formative practice and eventually when we do have a summative. So I'm going to go then to the practice. So if you notice on your schedule for the week, it says parts of a sentence. That's the slideshow that we just took notes on. And then the second part is that complete the sentence practice in Schoology. All right, so let me go on over to Schoology. Here I am in my same folder, the November 9th through the 13th folder. And then we have sentence practice we're looking for. If you could download this attachment, it's a PDF, download it into Notability for me. I'm going to switch my screen. Whoop. All right, first page, nothing that you have to write on. It just kind of goes through the slideshow that we kind of went through and kind of puts it in the same spot for you. And then you also have this in your notes. There's also some different types of sentence equations that you could possibly use. So I obviously use my own name in some of these equations, and I just have some different ways that you can combine both lead-ins and mains and add-ons and in-betweeners to have a whole bunch of different array of sentences. Remember, as long as your main part has the subject, verb, and direct object, you can add any information with lead-ins, add-ons, or in-betweeners. So nothing that you have to write on this, but as you are going to be creating your own sentences, you might want to take a look back at this. So here I have kind of like 3 separate pages where you're going to be creating your own compound and complex sentences. 3 pages here, so you're going to be creating like 3 sentences. So first, I want you to write a main sentence, all right? Remember, your main sentence can like include your name, include a friend's name, have you do something, your friends do something, and then have it like a direct object as well. If you need to go back to this page and kind of looked at some examples of my mains, if you're having some trouble. Then for number 2, I want you to add a lead-in. Your lead-in will probably be separated by a comma and then your main part. And then finally, add an add-on. So your main sentence is never going to change. Just like that we kind of had here with Bob left the quiet country town. Your main sentence is going to stay the same here for number 1, and then you're going to like copy and paste it down here for number 2. You're going to add a lead-in part to that sentence. Remember, you're talking more about either your subject, verb, or direct object. You're giving more information. And then finally, number 3 would be an add-on. So keep the same main for number 1 into number 2, and when you get to number 3, you'll keep your same lead-in and main, and then you'll just add an add-on part. And if you need to look back at this document here, it can help you as well. Number 2, page 2, same thing. Come up with a main sentence, a different main sentence, please. Then I'm going to have you do some type of in-betweener, and I'm going to try to get you to interrupt your main part of your sentence. So your blue portion is actually going to be interrupted by the green part. It's the in-betweener part, okay? And then you're going to go on and have an add-on. Once again, your main is going to stay the same throughout. And then finally, the last one, look at that, 4 parts there. Woo! It's going to be the same thing. I'm going to have you do a main, have a lead-in with the main, then try to put an in-betweener, and then finally do an add-on. So number 4 would be like all parts of the sentence. And if you need to look at an example, take a look back at the very first page. This example right here includes all 4 parts. So this is kind of like our last page, kind of like our target, what we're aiming for. You're going to have a main part in blue. You're going to have a red part that's a lead-in, a green in-betweener that might be in between your lead-in or your main part, or if you want to split up your main part, and then finally an add-on in yellow. Once you got this done, go ahead and obviously turn it into the sentence structures Dropbox and Schoology. If you got some time left, you want to work on a reader response journal, either from last week, week 8, or this week, kind of up to you. And then I'll see you guys on Friday. Thanks for being awesome for the sub. I appreciate it.